Hello, thank you for joining us today. This is a three-part webinar series, and today is series 1 of 3, and we're going to be talking about the product data platform, which is a fresh approach to PLM. You're going to be in listen-only mode, but at the end of the session, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. My name is Mark Lakovic, and I'm the Vice President of Sales for D3, and recently came from Master Graphics, where I was a partner for over 15 years. Master Graphics was an Autodesk partner for over 33 years, and on May 1st, we've taken the manufacturing division and merged it with D3 Technologies. Together, D3 and the Master Graphics merger has created the largest US-based manufacturing-focused Autodesk partner. We have a much deeper and broader bench for both technology and our service offerings, which we're going to talk about a little bit. We also have broader and deeper staff resources, which ultimately allows us to better address your demanding and competitive challenges, which we'll also touch on briefly. So to highlight what our core competency is briefly, I broke it into 4 primary areas. Design and engineering, which not only covers the traditional core CAD offerings from Autodesk, but also the cloud solutions. In addition to that, we have 3D print solutions, and actually we have our own machine shop where we're not only vetting out some of the Autodesk technology, but cutting parts for customers. The second main area is data management, where both companies have had a lot of experience in. That covers all of the product data management solutions, programming, integration, data migration, item bomb integration. And the third area is where we're going to spend most of our time today, PLM and integration, and talking about our foundational workflows. And those are product management, engineering management, quality management, and supplier management. And we'll just touch on enterprise integration as well. And then last, through the merger, a lot of people may or may not be aware of this, but we also have our own automation platform for design automation, sales automation, marketing, configuration, and then full-blown enterprise to order or engineer to order solutions. So here's what we want you to walk away from after today's webinar. We're going to talk about how the future of manufacturing is going to impact today's traditional workflows. What is PLM and how is it different today? How do ERP, PDM, PLM all fit together? We're going to introduce you to the product data platform and our approach to solving some of your complex challenges. And at the end, just a high-level overview of what Fusion Lifecycle is. So to kick things off, I want to talk a little bit about the future of making things and how it is already impacting our manufacturing client base. More specifically, how is the digital transformation impacting traditional workflows, and what does that mean for your business? While this slide was meant to compare and contrast the traditional, more linear product lifecycle to the fast-evolving future lifecycle as it relates to increased product value, I actually want to discuss how this is going to impact organizational workflow, data analytics, and the speed to which companies can move products through the life cycle more profitably. Customer demands are changing and expectations for personalization are rising. This calls for greater impacts on product introduction and development. Acquisitions, remote design teams, multiple facilities are all putting increased pressure on collaboration and the need for data management in general. Managing change is more critical than ever. The means of production are also changing in terms of methods, materials, and automation, so traditional workflows need to be adapted. Push-button manufacturing versus relying on tribal knowledge to get the job done. The customer experience is changing as well, with greater expectation for the buying experience. And lastly, smart devices and connected services to not only offer better customer experience, we just discussed, but leveraging that data for improved agile product development. This is our new future, and it is impacting how we work and the need for connected ecosystems. And that is the future of making things. So the last slide talked about the new workflows and the challenges that are coming with the digital transformation, essentially Industry 4.0. The problem is that most customers are struggling with the forces acting against profitability today. The The hard fact is that 80% of the companies fail to launch products on time, 50% never make it to market at all, and over half fail to meet profitability objectives. And in this highly competitive space, we simply can't afford to keep doing the same things over and over again. Some of the forces acting against profitability and time are things that can easily be fixed. Non-value added time, managing disparate data, managing change, fixing the lack of standards. And if we do this well, it can have dramatic impacts on your overall bottom line. Part of my role gives me flexibility and the opportunity to be out talking to a lot of different customers. And when I'm doing that, I'm always asking them a question, what's the barrier to innovation? And in this context, I use the term innovation, not just so much in terms of product innovation itself, but also process innovation, and really what's holding you back. And most often than not, it's time. They just simply don't have the resources. The second bullet point, though, here is just disconnected domains and departments. And so I highlighted that because we're going to spend a lot of time on that today. But in addition to it, it's just overall inefficient processes, silos of information. A lot of customers have homegrown systems that they struggle to get out from under. Traditional thinking, meaning the traditional product lifecycle. Tribal knowledge, it's just we've created silos of tribal knowledge in an effort to get products out the door, and it's tough to break that habit. And lastly, not enabling new employees. There's a whole new culture of people coming into the marketplace, and I think as I listen to them and talk to them, they don't want to come into an old traditional type of manufacturing. They're looking for innovative process. They're looking for more automation. They're looking for collaboration. And I think that's going to dramatically change how we all do business in the future. So let's take a look forward at the disconnected domains. So as I mentioned, I want to really spend some time focusing on solving the gap between the different domains within your organization. So let's look at this domain challenge a little deeper. The graphic on the left, I think, is representative of many companies. You have sales and marketing, engineering, manufacturing, supply chain, and a lot of times what we refer to in terms of disconnected domains is the problems don't always lie within the domain itself. It really lies in between the different domains. And the reason for that is a lot of times there's varying and sometimes opposing requirements. Each domain is using different tools, and therefore the data is disconnected. Makes standardizing process very difficult, and ultimately, you hear this often, there's no single source of truth. Therefore, coordination of change is manual and cumbersome, and you'll see these Excel icons. Excel becomes essentially the intermediary between the domains, and we all know what that means. Data is being manually entered in multiple times, and it causes mistakes and time delays. Teams are forced to use manual and ad hoc means to get their jobs completed. And if you're a company that has long time frames or larger projects, this only perpetuates the challenge of keeping information accurate. So let's take a look at a layer deeper as it relates to these enterprise domain challenges. And this slide is fairly generic, but I think you'll understand the bullet points under each. An example might be if this is a make-to-stock company, sales might be replaced by marketing, and it's marketing's communication and collaboration with engineering to make sure that they're getting product images, specifications, things like that coordinated. In a make-to-order type organization, maybe it's sales requirements coming in from a customer and then trying to validate the configurations with engineering, trying to get the quotes out, trying to make sure that it's even an opportunity or a project worth pursuing from a profitability perspective. But you can see the gaps here of validating requirements, tracking projects, making sure project visibility and status updates are there for all stakeholders to see. In engineering, it's often around managing engineering item and BOM data, document control, helping manage change throughout the entire process. Manufacturing would be the same, as making sure that manufacturing knows well enough in advance so they can get tooling and production schedules and get sure everything's right so that the manufacturability can actually take place. And on the supplier side, making sure that the suppliers have approved components, specifications, pricing, making sure that inventories are accurate with parts and pricing, making make to order company, maybe managing long lead time parts as an example. So hopefully you can see, while this slide is very generic, I think a lot of the challenges within each of the domains should be understood. So hopefully the challenges on the previous slide resonated with most of you. I want to move now to talking about enterprise domain solutions. And what I'm referring to there are things like CRM for sales, product data management tools for engineering, ERP solutions for enterprise, and even supply chain management software. And I'm sure many of you on the phone have tried to implement some of these technologies to solve some of those domain problems. What we call those systems are systems of record. They're very good at what they do within the domain, and there is even a little bit of workflow within those domains. The challenge lies in how do you connect those multiple systems into a single source of truth for everybody to be on the same page throughout the company. So even in an environment where you have all four of these solutions, and even when all solutions are working quite well for the things that they do, you oftentimes are still not getting what you need from an organizational perspective. You get leaky pipes. Data, standards, processes are still fragmented, and the challenge still occurs. And that's really the difference between a system of record versus a true system of engagement. And this is the downside when you really don't have a system of engagement, or where you have silos of data and lack of standards. The average knowledge worker spends about 50% of their time performing product-related processes, yet 70% of that is non-value added activity. Here's a very recent example. We just literally got the survey back last week, and it's a relatively small company, which I like to use. In total, the company, we surveyed 12 responders, and they reportedly spent about 227 hours per week on potentially non-value added activity. This averages 19 hours per person per week. So over 1 year, that totals 9,988 hours spent on potentially inefficient tasks and activities, or over $450,000 in wasted time. What else could we be doing with that time to make your company more efficient? So one way companies are looking to fill the gap between these domains and solve the noted challenges is to look at a product lifecycle management, or PLM, solution. But a lot of customers fall in between two thoughts on PLM. So I just want to spend a second and talk about that. One, they don't know what it is. I find that a lot. I would say over 85% of the customers we talk to really don't have a thorough understanding of what PLM is, or even how it can help solve your problems. Or two, they know what it is, but they've also have this notion of it being overly complex, and that sometimes scares people away. So I want to spend a little time sharing what it is and why it's different today, and how it really can potentially add value to your organization. So what is PLM? Product Lifecycle Management is a broad set of processes used to create, maintain, and communicate product information from ideation through the end of life. In the broader context, it includes design, engineering, CAD, data management, and even IoT. PLM software connects and organizes the people and the information involved in these processes to improve the quality of data, effectiveness of the employees, and overall value to the organization. Here's a typical practice that we see all too often. Many companies design new products in a vacuum. In other words, engineering teams design products based on a set of market requirements without input from downstream functions who will need to build it and support it. When a design is complete, they essentially throw it over the wall to manufacturing. Consequently, downstream functions learn about new product designs, part selections, sourcing decisions very late in the game, sometimes too late. Problems which could have been identified and fixed earlier are uncovered, causing delays and high change costs. Cumulative change costs add up quickly, and as downstream functions like sourcing, production, quality scramble to achieve cost, quality, and manufacturing volume targets. So what's the alternative? The answer is really get early cross-functional collaboration. Get all stakeholders that are part of that product development on the same page earlier in the process. Providing product development teams with a more complete, accurate view of product information such as cost, failure rates, part usage, supplier preferences. Engineers are better able to make choices and trade-offs. Early cross-functional collaboration and review allows downstream functions to catch potential problems much earlier, when changes are easier and a lot less expensive to the company. And so that's really what PLM is all about. It provides a systems of engagement. Before we talked about systems of record. Really, PLM is a system of engagement, bringing people, processes, and data associated with all stages of the product lifecycle together, from initial requirements, definition, and capture to service and really beyond. It therefore provides a single, up-to-date version of the truth around a product or design project for all stakeholders across the organization. So it focuses on things like standards, visibility, accessibility, milestones throughout the whole team, collaboration, accountability, routings, approvals. This is the area that PLM really strives, and it really, in essence, becomes that single point of truth around these other domain systems. We often get asked, so, okay, I understand conceptually what PLM is, but where does it fit? How do these different systems relate to one another? So I put this slide together to help, I guess, make that clear. So PDM focuses on things like CAD integration, data management, design reuse, design replication, lifecycle states. On the far right is ERP. Again, when you think about that as a systems of record, it talks about production scheduling, inventory management, sales and order management, shipping logistics, financials, and accounting. Where PLM really fits is in the middle, and that is very intentional. Things like new product development or new product introduction, quality management process, program and project management, supplier management, field management. It really is the glue between these different systems. Below that, you'll see this crossover, and really all that's representing is there is crossover for certain things like item and BOM management, sourcing and procurement. Where should those things live? That the answer is different for different people, and we can help you sort those things through. At the end of the day, though, it's all about getting the business systems integration and understanding where the strengths and weaknesses are of these domain solutions. So throughout this slide presentation, we've talked about PLM, where it fits, but now specifically, what is Fusion Lifecycle? Fusion Lifecycle is the only complete true cloud PLM solution on the market. The focus from the beginning was on ease of use, flexibility, configurability, and connectivity, providing game-changing capabilities that are only really possible in the cloud. And when I say true cloud, it's not hosted. It was built from the ground up, intended to be in the cloud. And so with a true cloud solution, you automatically get access to the latest features and improvements without costly updates. It also results in significant lower cost of ownership compared to traditional on-premise or hosted solutions. We focus on improving one system, not supporting legacy, obsolete versions scattered throughout the customer base. I thought this might be a good way to just talk high level on what the capabilities are. So starting in the upper left, Fusion Lifecycle comes with pre-built apps that are foundational to most organizations. So things like being able to manage items and BOMs, new product introduction, managing change, dealing with your CAD data and documentation, quality. So those are just a few of the foundational things that come really out of the box and where best practices have been built. But that it's not where it ends. You can also, in the upper right, extend these process templates. So there's an app store, and inside of that are all sorts of different templates that you can use that are all just included as part of the tool. Things like accident reports or asset management, equipment maintenance, field failure analysis are just a few examples. The lower left is really one of, I think, the significant things with Fusion Lifecycle, and what we love about it is its configurability. You know, no matter where you start, the system is easily configured. You don't have to have everything perfectly mapped out at the beginning. It can evolve as you go through it. You don't need high-end consultants to come back and re-customize or program anything. I see that as a tremendous value where customers can take ownership of the solution and continuously improve it over time. And then lastly is, you know, taking advantage of the cloud. Lifecycle is a true cloud, not hosted solution. So you get a tremendous amount of performance at scale. The technology of the viewer is probably the best I've ever seen. You don't have a lot of the costs and struggles with managing on-premise applications, which really drives a much better return on your investment. So that leads me to really define Fusion Lifecycle in today's terms. Again, why is it different? So PLM today is built ground up to be highly flexible and configurable. You don't need all this high-end consulting to get the system implemented. It allows you to implement the solution in smaller bite-sized chunks, and we're going to talk more about that in the second webinar, but it's much more scalable and practical to get implemented. It's built for universal access and ease of use, so anybody in the organization can get into it, use it very easily, and of course there is mobile use as well. And lastly, and I touched on this on the last slide a little bit, but it is cost effective, so there is no heavy or on-premise IT infrastructure that's required. You can start in or out of engineering or as small as you desire. And really another really important piece to this is the integration of other mission critical systems is way easier than it has been in the past. So as a quick summary, we've talked about a lot of the challenges that manufacturing's faced with today. We've talked about PLM and what PLM is and why it's important. We've talked about how a system of engagement like PLM can start to pull the different silos of information together into a more central source of truth. And then we've given you a brief introduction of what Fusion Lifecycle is specifically. And now we're going to talk a little bit about our methodology for helping you get started. And it's really about creating a common data environment with Fusion Lifecycle. Our approach is to help you get started in a more practical and pragmatic fashion by leveraging Fusion Lifecycle to create a single source of truth between your current domains. And we call that the product data platform. The product data platform consists of three primary areas: file and engineering data management. Where is the data? Where is it housed today? What are the challenges you're having with it? The second area is the workflow and process management piece. And we look at four foundational workflows that most companies interact with today. And then the third component is creating more of what we call this common data environment, which is looking at what data is housed in other systems that needs to be shared and communicated within these workflows across the entire organization. For the workflow and process management piece of it, we use the process maturity framework. We like to focus on four foundational workflows that are common in most companies: product management, engineering management, quality management, and supplier management. For the workflow and process management piece of it, we use the process maturity framework. We like to focus on four foundational workflows that are common in most companies: product management, engineering management, quality management, and supplier management. Once we go through the maturity framework and the four foundational areas of your business, we start to map out the organizational workflow and how the data, teams, and processes might interact. As an example on this chart, which again is very high level, as new products are being developed and following a stage gate workflow, you can see how the item BOM data may flow through engineering, where you may be managing engineering change. At the same time, you may be needing to purchase parts, components from suppliers, and actually managing the quality initiatives, inventory, etc. Every company has variations to this map and certainly different priorities, and that's okay. That is exactly where a configurable solution like Fusion Lifecycle comes into play. It allows us to adapt and configure to your specific needs. The last part of the product data platform is integration. Excuse me. And while integration may not be something we start from day one, it is important to understand within the overall context of the to-be state. It is also important for you to know that integration takes on different forms and can certainly have different levels. As an example, if any of you may or may not have Autodesk solutions or are using Autodesk Vault, D3 does have a direct integration between Vault and Fusion Lifecycle, making it a lot easier to get item and BOM data into Fusion Lifecycle, and therefore being able to move that eventually into your ERP system as example. We can also integrate to other cloud CRM type solutions or any other on-premise solution. We can integrate commercial applications and even other corporate IT systems and any other relational database for that matter. Again, a lot of companies don't always start with integration from day one, and that's good. We actually recommend it in certain cases. It's something we can easily do in a phase 2 or phase 3 approach. The key is to get your processes down, workflows, and really understand where the data has to move to and from long term. Before we adjourn, I want to make you aware of the dates and content for the next 2 webinars. Webinar number 2 is looking a layer deeper at the Common Data Platform, so we'll go into the actual workspaces and show you some examples of those 4 foundations. That'll be held on November 2nd at 11 a.m. Central Time. And then webinar number 3 is how to add immediate value by getting quick wins around adoption strategy. So we'll talk about our methodology of deployment and our adoption strategy, and that will be held on November 9th at 11 a.m. So before we adjourn, I just want to do a quick summary. Today we talked about how will the future of manufacturing impact traditional workflows. We talked about what is PLM and how is it different today. We talked briefly about where ERP, PDM, and PLM fit together across the enterprise. We introduced you to this notion of a product data platform, a common data environment, and we just touched briefly on Fusion Lifecycle. In the next next webinars, we'll go deeper into that and how the workflows can definitely benefit your organization. Lastly, I just really want to say thank you for attending and hope to see you on the next webinar.